Hello everybody, Bruce here with a video on PHP data objects, better known as PDO. Before you watch this video, please make sure that you watch the video on creating the PDO posts database and the posts table, all right? And at any time, pause the video so you can code along with me, all right? So let's get started. I'm in a PHP script. Let me just make this bigger here. And right now, there's no HTML whatsoever. I'm trying to introduce you to how to use PHP to connect to and read data that's stored in a particular database in a particular database table. So here we go. We open up a PHP tag on line 1. On line 2, I'm creating a variable that happens to be the host name of the database server. And since we're working in XAMPP, it is running on my local host, right? But just know that, and you'll get to see this in class, that you can point to a database anywhere on the internet as long as you have access to it. And again, I will be demonstrating how to connect to a MySQL database running in the Amazon cloud during class. So $host, we're going to make it a string called localhost, okay? Localhost, the same local host that you type into your browser to access your work running in XAMPP. The next 3 are $user, and I need you to set that to root. And $password is equal to nothing, an empty string, not a space, just an empty string. Now, these are the default username and password for XAMPP, and of course, we can go in and change these things, but we'll do that further along in the course. The last variable that I want you to create is $dbName and set that to PDO posts, right? That's the name of the MySQL database that we created in a prior video, right? So make sure you get those in there. The next thing we need to do is create this string here. We call it a data source name or DSN, very common with database connectivity. And I'm using the variable name $DSN, and I'm setting it to this string here. And I'm not expecting you to memorize this, but it needs to be in this format where the first thing there is the type of connection we're going to be making, which is a MySQL connection, host, and then the host variable concatenated with the database name. And you look carefully, you see these semicolons right after each value, and those are important because, again, that string is going to be MySQL host equals localhost semicolon dbName equals, right, PDO posts, okay, just like that, okay? So that's the DSN, the data source name. And depending upon which project you're working on or particular lab, you're gonna need to set this to the appropriate database name. And this is a learning database, not so much one we'll be doing more with, but it's just so I can show you how to get these access to these records here, these rows of data in MySQL from PHP. So the next thing I want to do is create what we call a PDO instance, right? So we need to really create this PHP data object that's going to represent a connection to the MySQL database, right? So we typically you'll call it $PDO or $con, like CONN or something like that, just so you know. And I'm just calling it PDO now because of the demo. And then I'm using the new keyword, and then we're going to type in PDO because that's what you need. And then in parentheses for the parameters, you need the $DSN variable, the $user variable, and the $password variable. And what this tries to do is try to use that data to establish a connection to MySQL, and then you'll have access to that connection using this database, using this variable here that is a database connection, a database object, all right? So the next thing is gonna make more sense as we go along through the course, through this video. And I want you to type it in, but what we're telling this connection here is that when we make a connection to the database, we want the information that comes back to come back as an object. And I'll show you I'll show you two things, how to get it back as an object and also how to get it back as an associative array, okay? And I told you that associative arrays are used everywhere, all right? So the next thing, I'm gonna uncomment line 16. And this is saying, hey, PDO object, call your query method. Like, hey, call, I want to perform a query, right? A database query. And in here, I have a string. It can be single or double quotes, doesn't matter. It's saying select all from the posts table. Select all from the posts table. And what should happen when this runs is this is the post table, and I should be able to get back 3 rows of information that I can do stuff with, okay? 3 rows. So what's gonna happen here is when this statement runs, it's gonna store its result in this variable called $stmt, or statement, all right? It may not be the best choice of a variable name right now, but we'll carry on. So what I need to do now is I'm going to uncomment the next set of information here. And what this is going to do is going to fetch 1 row of data from the posts, from the PDO post database, and more specifically, based upon what we're querying in line 16, the posts database table. So what this is doing is it's an indefinite loop, it's a while loop, and it's using that, that query result here, right, which is like a lot of data, right, and it's saying fetch a row of data from, right, the database, from this, but this is like, everyone's like, what? You did this fetch object thing up here, right? So I can specify, right, using this syntax here, PDO, fetch ASOC, right? Not the character from Dilbert, ASOC, or is that his name? But this is gonna give me back an associative array. And each row, right, each row from the post table, right? So this data is each gonna come back separately, right? As we iterate through the while loop as 1 row at a time. And on line 20, I'm echoing out that associative array variable row, and specifically the title, right? The title. And the way this works, if I go to the structure in PHP-MyAdmin, these are the associative array keys in this name, column here, right? So ID, title, body, author, is underscore published, right? They're going to be the key names between double quotes, right? And if I run this, right, if I go to my web browser, and I already have this page up, and I hit enter, look at that. I get the titles of all 3 of those posts. Now, I think some of you are like, okay, what about, say, the author? Okay, so that's another key in the associative array that comes back, right? And I'll run it, and there are the three authors, Bruce, Gail, and Tucker. And you can also, right, do something like this, just so you can see this. What happens if you var dump, right? What happens if you var dump $stmt, whoops, stmt, right? What happens there, right? What happens there? Okay, you get an object back, right? And that happens to be not the data, right? But the actual, you know, the query, right? So it's not, whoops, it's not until we perform the fetch that it's gonna get the data. So what I'm gonna do now is just move this here. And again, don't be afraid to hit pause at any time. And I'm just going to var dump the row that's coming back. And let's see what we're getting. Okay, let's see what we're getting. Here we go. So look at this. You know what this is, right? This is what var dump does. It's giving you the keys, the type, length, and value. And there's the title, there is the body, etc., right? So I think you can start to see that a lot of the concepts that you've learned, right, are being brought together, right? So we could also, right, do like something like this, where I can just make these like list items, right? So before the loop, I'll echo out an opening UL tag, right? Over here, after line 23, I'll echo out a closing UL tag, right? And then here, I'm just gonna echo out like list items, right? List items, right? I'll pen down the row here, and we'll do that, and we'll close the list item, and whoops, and here we go. Am I getting an error somewhere here? Syntax or unexpected quote. Oh, right here, Bruce. Come on, dude. Right there. Okay. Thanks for helping me. I appreciate that, everybody. I can hear you. Okay. So there it is. Look at that. So now we have that, right? And I could actually like change that to anything I want, right? So yeah, we'll do more with this later, but can you imagine instead of a UL, I'm just going to go back and undo the UL, right? Could we do something like this? Could we say, again, pause anytime, pause anytime. We'll go back to the breaks here for a second, and we'll say, hey, here's the title of the post. There it is. And we'll just put a break. In fact, we'll just make it an H1. So we'll put a closing H1 here, and we'll put a opening H1 there, and whoops, and there, and that, and we'll put the title, and then on the next line, echo, right? We'll just put a paragraph, right? And we'll just put it like this: dot dollar row, double quotes author, right? Dot closing paragraph, right? Just because we can, right? And then we'll just put echo out the another paragraph, right? And then we'll put in the content, right? Row author. I heard you. Thank you for that, author. Okay. It's amazing the technology how when I can hear you like talking to the screen when you're playing this back. And now we'll put in the body. Yeah, just like that, the body, right? And we will let's see what we get here. In fact, you know something? I'm just gonna do something. I'm gonna say, hey, put a horizontal rule here to keep them separated, right? Just like that. Okay. Here we go. Ready? And after each post, by the way, after each post, let's just put in 2 breaks here to keep them separated, right? Just like that. And let's see what we get. Here we go, back to the browser. And look at that. We get I like pizza, my name, and the hipster ipsum. And then we get I love turtles, right? Another post, a blog post, right? Gail, and a horizontal rule, and the hipster ipsum. And then, of course, I love to play outside by Tucker, and the body of his post right there. So do you see it? Do you see how with like just a little bit of code we're connecting and querying a database? Heck yeah. All right, so let me do this. I'm gonna just because I have a lot of code to go over. So I'm going to comment this out. And remember, pause the video, right? So I'll leave that there. Pause the video. All right, good pause. All right, so I'm going to comment this stuff out here. Okay, just like that. Yay. And I'm going to move on, actually, to show you another form. Actually, I need this line here because I need to query the database. But check this out right here on lines 30, 31, and 32. I'm using a different parameter here with fetch, where I'm saying, hey, fetch the data as an object, and you'll be able to reference the properties of that object, right? The title, author, all that stuff, using this arrow thing here, this arrow operator, right? That's how you refer to properties in PHP. So yeah, so do you remember above, way up here, where I set the default to be object? So when you do something like this, whether it's fetch obj or fetch assoc, you don't need to do what I did here on line 20 or what I'm doing here. Because since I set it above as fetch underscore object, right? Like this, like that. If I just leave it like that, it's already the default. So what I can do now is say, hey, fetch a row, assign it to the $row variable, and then get the title, right? So here we go, and there it is. That's the title of all three. In fact, what I could do, just because I like all of you, right, is I can just take this stuff right here, right, and show you, right, how I could just do this, uncomment these rows, wing, right, and just let me just do this and change this notation, right? A little more work than I thought, right? To this, that, and that, okay? And wait for it, $row. Oh, that was a horizontal rule, Bruce. Don't mess with that. And right here, right? That and that, yeah. So I should get the same exact result, right, as I got up here with the associative array. And the difference is the way you refer. It's probably less typing. You don't have to do all the square brackets and double quotes and stuff like that. So look at that. I got data, man. I got data. I think this is awesome, by the way. Can you tell I dig this stuff? So that's that. So just note the notation for referring to properties of an object, title, author, and body. And of course, there are others, right? The creation date and is it published, right? I think it was is published, and we'll do some of that, all right? Yay, we're cruising along. So we'll keep that for now. No, actually, we're gonna change it up. So I'm gonna not delete, comment out line 16. Yay, here we go. I scrolled too far. So we're going to talk about using prepared statements, okay? Using prepared statements. And what I'm doing here on this line right here, on this line right here, right, is scary, okay? While it works, just know that it's I don't want you to do this because, right, let me tell you what it's doing. It's saying select all from the post table where the author is equal to the value of the $author variable, okay? Now, I think I need to comment these back. Did I? Oh, maybe they're below. Please hold. Okay, so again, you don't want to do this because this type of thing is prone to, SQL injections, and it's, not very, very secure, okay? So we don't want to create SQL statements that contain like variable names like this, all right? So just know that, right? So the next thing we want to do is we want to use what are called prepared statements. And prepared statements separate the query instructions from the actual data, right? So we're not going to be putting variable information in our queries, all right? So let me show you now how to use what we call prepared statements with what we call positional parameters. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to uncomment this stuff right here. And I created a variable called $author, right? And you remember that in this particular table, right, in the MySQL table, I'm one of the authors, right? And I have one row of data in that table, right? So I'm going to create now something that looks weird, right? On line 48, I have a variable $SQL that's going to represent the string select all from the post table where the author equals question mark. What? Right? Question mark. And that's what we call a positional parameter. Because what we need to do now on line 49 is say, hey, PDO, prepare yourself. So I'm saying here, do you remember we had the PDO object above, and we're calling the prepare method, and we're giving it this SQL to prepare, right? So the last thing that it needs to do is to take this placeholder question mark, and we need to take that statement that we prepared statements, and we need to execute that statement on line 50, and we need to pass in an array, right? In this case, we'll only have one question mark, one positional parameter of $author, right? And $author is going to be Bruce. So again, I'm not putting variables in here. This is all happening on the server, right? And this statement here is going to say, hey, prepared statement, fetch all of the records. Give me all. Give me all. Give me everything you got that matches this query with this positional parameter, Bruce Elgort. Okay? So prepared statements. So let's carry on. So just so you can see this, right? I'm going to uncomment this. Here we go. And I'm going to refresh the same page. And look at that. We have, right, a one row of data came back, an array of 1. Do you know why? Because Bruce, right, the author only has one post, right? And if I did the same for Tucker Elgort, and I hit enter, there it is. It's the same thing, right? There we go, right? And what happens if I just enter like Stony, just like that? What happens if I do that? Nothing, because there's no records containing Stony. Yeah. All right. So again, study this, go back, rewind it. This is good. This is cool. Now, this is positional kind of stuff, right? And did I do a second one with positional? No. But if you have additional things that are gonna, like additional clauses as we call them, in your SQL statement, then you're gonna have multiple question marks, and then you're gonna put like a comma in here and say maybe it's I don't know, just some other data that you're gonna inject into this particular query. All right, cool stuff, right? So yeah, let me comment that out. By the way, no, I'm not going to comment that out. Let's just leave that. Let's comment out this. What comes back with $post, believe it or not, when you use fetch all, is an associative array, right? Is an associative array. So if I iterate through the $post, which is all these things that came back as $post, right? And I print out the title property, right? Remember, my default for querying is our objects, and I refresh this page. Actually, I need to get rid of Stony, and I need to put in a valid person here, and I refresh it. I like pizza, because that's the title, right, of Bruce's post, right? You get that? You get that? Okay. I see the gears turning. I can see it. It's this newfangled technology that we have. So now let's fetch some data like we did above, but now using prepared statements. with multiple parameters, right? Multiple parameters in the query. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to uncomment these lines. We're going to look for the author, Bruce Elgort, and is published, true, that have the ID of 1, right? So getting back to PHP My Admin here, if I go to Browse, right, you can see here that the ID, right, of Bruce's post is 1, and you can see Gail's is 2, right? So what we're going to do now on this line 68, right, we're going to say, hey, select all from the post table where the author equals, okay, this is no more, so we're not doing positional stuff anymore. We're doing what are called named parameters. So author equals :author, and the status is _ published is equal to is _ published variable, which is true, okay? So what we can do now, this is really cool, and this is a lot in this video. I probably should have broke it down because I got, not too much more. So check it out. Here we go. We're preparing our statement. We are executing the statement, but now we're going to have an associative array. Author is the author variable, comma, is _ published is the $is published variable. And I didn't use the ID, by the way, not yet. And then I'm fetching everything, and I have the associative array back. And check it out. If I just print it out, just like that, and I do this, like that, there's the data. And if I comment it out and I put this loop-de-loop back, right, because it's an associative array, and here, right, I get I like pizza, I get the body, and I get the author name, Bruce Elgort, right? Because that's exactly what we wanted here, right? And if I change the variable up here from Bruce Elgort, I'll put Gail Elgort, just like that, and I'll go back and I'll run, right? There's I Love Turtles, because that's the post that Gail made. And start to think about this, right? And how like things like WordPress and other things work, right? So super cool. Let me do that. Let me just see. Let's leave that. So getting a single post, right? This got like multiple posts, right? Fetch all, right? But what if you need one specific thing, right? So check this out. I'm going to uncomment this, and we're almost done. And we're setting our query, our SQL, our structured query language, to be select all from posts where the ID is a specific ID, which, if you remember, is set to 1. So again, no author, just, hey, what's number 1? And again, we're using named parameters here. So when we execute, we pass in an associative array, and ID, right, which is going to go for this, right, is going to be equal to the variable $ID, and, right, if I go here, I didn't get anything. That's awesome, because I didn't print anything out, right? So let me just echo the title, right? And here we go. There it is. I like pizza, because that's number 1, which is Bruce. Number 2 was Gail's, which was the turtle. So I'll just go there, boom, and enter. Did I save it? Did I save it? ID equals ID equals 2, right? Is published true. ID, where ID equals 2. $post title. What's going on? Wow, what's going on? Echo $post title. Wow, let's just try this. ID 3. Really, I get this far in the video and it's behaving like this. Let me just select star from posts, right? Where the ID is equal to the ID, right? Yeah, hold on one second. Did I do this wrong? I love to play outside. Yeah, that's what it is. So I had a mistake there. It should just be ID equals that. And what about over here? I just want to make sure. Yeah, so this is author. See, that was my fault, all right? So there you go. And again, if I change it back to Gale like we originally tried, right? And I go here, right? I love turtles because that's the title of Gale's post, right? We're almost done. We're almost done. So let me comment, let me comment that out. And notice how I'm doing this, right? It's a good thing to learn, you know, how to present and do this type of presentation. You may get asked to do it one day, maybe from me, right? All right, so the last thing I'm gonna do is to get the row count of a table. Like how many things came back, right? When I say select star from post where author equals, right? In this case, Gale Elgort, you know that Gale has one post in here, right? One post, right? Gale only has one post. Where's Gale? Right there, one post, right? So how do you know how many posts Gale's made? Well, again, you have a prepared statement with a positional placeholder, select star from post where author equals, and that's going to be Gale's name. You pass in positional, get an irregular array, right? And they have to be in the right order that they appear in here, which is going to be here. And then you use for named ones, you use an associative array. Makes sense, right? And you execute it with the value of Gale. And then you say, hey, how many rows came back? Row count is a method that's available to you as part of PDO. I assign that to a variable called post count. And you all know it's going to come back with 1, right? You all know that it comes back and it says post count is 1, right? And to prove to you, right, to wrap up this amazing video, right, we're going to go to the insert menu. We're going to give it a title. We have reached the end of this video, right? I don't think I have any, I'll just type in this is the end, kind of like the Doors song, right? Author is Gale, right? And that's it, right? Go, boink. And if I go back here now, what should this be? That's right, 2. There it is. So we covered a lot of ground. Again, we'll be going over this in class, and I really hope it helps because this is, you know, we're reading data, right? Remember CRUD, create, read, update, delete, right? We're creating the data here manually right now, but we'll be able to do that using forms because you all know and love forms, right? So when somebody submits and posts, our job is going to be to write some code to insert data into a database table or various tables, right? And then eventually be able to update data and then eventually be able to delete data. So that's all I got for you. Thanks for watching. It's a little bit longer video. Play it again and have a great day. Thanks for watching.